Hi guys, I know I look a little weird right now, but that's because I am not wearing any makeup because I'm lazy and I don't want to put it on. So, I've been meaning to do this for quite some time. I've spent a lot of time reading The Hunger Games on this channel, but what I really would like to do is read something that I have written on here. So, but I'm still gonna stay within the Hunger Games kind of yard or field, I don't know, because this book I'm writing is a prequel to the Hunger Games, and you know, you're just like, of course she would do that. Yes, I would. Okay, so yeah, it's called appropriately the first annual Hunger Games. It's about the last few days of the rebellion and then into the games, and I wrote this specifically because I had ideas about how the first games could have worked, because, you know, people are always asking each other the questions, well, you know, who was the mentors if there were no victors, and how did this work, and did they do that differently, and, you know, and I thought, you know, I think I have a pretty good idea of what I think may have happened, and, honestly, of all the things I've started writing, this is the first one that I really felt like I knew what I was doing throughout the entire thing. Like, I knew where the story was headed, I knew the characters, and I knew what their roles would be, and that's quite rare. So I thought that I would read some of it to you, and I'll just read a little bit of it, and if you want to read all of it, I'll put the link to the website where it's posted in the description. It's called figment.com, and I heard about it through John Green on Vlogbrothers. Thank you. It's basically like a community site for young readers, mostly teenagers, and you can, you don't really have to make up a new password and stuff. I have mine through my Facebook. You can do it through Twitter as well, and it's just a place for you to post stuff, and it's like, people can't copy and paste it and steal it, so it, you know, you have comfort in that, and it's a good place to get objective feedback. So, without further ado, I'm nervous. Chapter 1 of the first annual Hunger Games, and I wrote, the following is based on the works of Suzanne Collins. The chapters aren't named, so it's just chapter 1. Odds. That's what it all comes down to. We lost the war because, even though we had stronger numbers, the odds were not in our favor. The capital had the weapons, the bombs that could obliterate us at the push of a button. They claimed they didn't want to do that, start a nuclear war. Even District 13 said they wouldn't make that move, though they gave us no real reason why. Many believed 13, believed that the capital wasn't going to destroy its workforce and the majority of its population, but I knew better. And now the ashes and radioactive rubble of District 13 are all that's left to show of their certainty. But we and the rest of the districts are not so lucky. Our fate is much worse than death, than total destruction. At least then it would be over. There would be nothing more they could do to us. In a way, being alive just puts you at more risk, because this punishment is worse than death. And that brings me back to odds. Every punishment inflicted upon us depends on odds, on being in the right or wrong place at the appointed moment. Some things you can help, others you can't. But whatever part you were allotted, everyone is going to play this dangerous game, and nothing will ever be the same again, even if you somehow win. I hear the noise of my brother, Oakland, chopping logs outside. It's a sunny spring day, but I barely notice the warm light shining through the window. I sit on an old chair in the corner, my head and shoulder against the wall, my knees clutched up against my chest. It's too quiet. I can't believe it was only weeks ago that my parents, uncles, aunts, cousins were all here in this abandoned little house. We were cramped and terrified then, but we had hope, hope of a brighter tomorrow. There's no hope now, no promise of a happier day. Only a grim darkness hanging over us, an uncertainty of what will happen next. I find myself cherishing every second, every breath, every heartbeat, because I know it could all end at any moment. Oakland continues to chop. We aren't low on wood, not at all, but it distracts him, so I just let him do it. Even though I'm younger than he is, when it comes to being rational, I'm superior. My brother is loving, protective, strong, and brave, but I'm smart, and we both know it. If it were up to Oakland, he would have died fighting in the war by now, or at least would have shared my parents' fate and been taken into custody. But for whatever reason, the peacekeepers didn't take us when they took everyone else. Sure, we're only kids, but since when has that mattered? Hundreds of children died in attacks during the war. I remember the day they took them with perfect clarity. The official defeat of the rebel headquarters in District 13 had just been announced. The snow hadn't melted yet, and there was an icy chill in the air that turned my cheeks red. All of us were here when the TV switched on by itself, and that was it. All hope lost. My father and mother were at the rebel base over the next mountain. There was no way we could get to them before the hovercrafts did. Even if we could have made it to the rebel base in time, it would have guaranteed us a one-way ticket to a Capitol prison cell. I don't care if I get arrested, Oakland said. I'd rather die for a war than die an old man anyway. But my uncle wouldn't allow it. The war is over. We've lost. There's no point dying for nothing, son. Besides, if your parents die, you have to take care of Mallee. But nothing, he said, looking at my brother solemnly. It's time for you to stop acting like a child, Oakland. Be a man. We all thought Oakland would yell back or fight or something, but he just clenched his jaw and stormed outside. I followed him, thinking he was going to try to go to the base anyway, but instead I found him throwing an axe around. I decided to let him work out his anger. It's not easy to rationalize with him when he's angry, especially when he has a weapon in his hands. Back in the house, my cousins were walking around frantically, packing their things and talking. I stood in the doorway for a while before I was noticed. You're leaving? I asked in disbelief. My uncle came up and put his arms on my shoulders. Or his hands on my shoulders. Mallee, we have to. It's only a matter of time before your parents tell them we're all here. They'll arrest us for sure. Pack your things. You and Oakland are coming with us. I couldn't form words right away, but only shook my head. They would never tell the Capitol where we are. They would never... I can't take that chance, said my Aunt Beatrice. I shook my head again, looking at the floor. Oakland won't leave. I know him. My uncle's face looked hard and grim. Then he stays. I'm not leaving him behind. He's my brother. He can take care of himself. He's a big boy. I looked at my uncle with disbelief and anger. How could he be so heartless? He would leave behind his brother's son. He would separate the family at a time like this. And he would expect me to go along with him and forget about my brother when my parents had been taken and probably killed? All my cousins were looking at me, waiting to see what I would do. This just made it hard to think, being one who doesn't deal with pressure very well. Finally, I make my decision. If you want to leave, leave. I'm staying with Oakland. Everyone turned back to my uncle, expecting him to have a rebuttal. But for a moment, he just looked at me with his eyes, with sad eyes, and then said, Very well. Be strong and well, Mallee. Be strong and well. Like the trees that were so big and firm and stubborn, not even the Capitol could cut them down. It's a parting phrase that we started using when the war broke out, and people started leaving home to become soldiers. It held the message that if we could just stand firm and keep fighting, even the Capitol could not destroy us. But we were wrong. Within minutes, they were gone, leaving no sign that they had ever been there, except the scuff of their boots on the dusty floorboards. I stood there, in the exact place I had been when they left, and all I could do was watch the dust swirl around in the frozen air. Now, the air is warm, but I don't feel any safer than I did that horrible day. My eyes fix on the spot on the floor where my cousin's boots scuffed the dust. I didn't touch that dust for weeks. It was the only remnants I had left of my family. It would still be there if the melted snow hadn't washed it away. I sigh, wondering where they were now. Maybe in the woods, hiding. Maybe in a new safe house somewhere. Doesn't really matter, I just hope they're safe. Oakland walks in, not bothering to scrape the mud off his boots, adding 2 new logs to the fire. He looks at me with his almost intense light brown eyes. You okay? I only nod. I haven't talked too much since they took our parents, and he hasn't pushed me. He wouldn't talk either if he didn't feel the need to act unaffected by everything that has happened. To him, this is what being an adult means. Never showing what you feel, never backing down, never being weak. He sits down on the chair near the stairs. This house is a lot like the one I grew up in. No decoration, no frills or luxuries. Wood floors, worn down by years of use. Plain wooden furniture, walls of cement and gray bricks. Upstairs is just an empty loft floor. Down here is a kitchen and the Capitol TV projector that routinely plays different promos. My mom changed it to promos. That we are forced to watch on the wall above the fire. I keep hoping they will show our parents, even if it is to say they are dead. But every time my hopes are shattered. We're running low on food. I was planning on gathering some tree bark tomorrow, says Oakland. I make a sound just to let him know I heard him, but I say nothing else. And that's when the TV turns on. The words, "A message from the Capitol," appear on the screen, then a voice saying, "Citizens of Panem, a word from President Augustus." The president on TV? This hasn't happened since the war ended. He only comes on TV when something big has happened or is about to happen. He used to come on right before a bombing, or an ambush, or a raid. Seeing the president meant death was coming. Seeing the president was never a good sign. "Greetings, citizens," he said, smiling in a way that would not be considered evil at first glance, or even second glance. "As you know, the brutal war in our land is finally at an end. We are entering a new age of peace and prosperity. But let us be sure not to forget the dark days which we have lived through, in which we have lost many of our men, women, and children. We lost them at your hands, I think to myself. We must always remember the tragedy of this time if we are to become a peaceful and unified land. For if we forget why we need the capital, destruction and pain will follow. We have a forgiving, generous nation. We have in our custody the leaders of various rebellion groups. Though many of you call for their blood for the crimes they have committed, we see it best fit that they be given a full pardon." My heart stops in my chest as I try to comprehend his words. A full pardon? What does that even mean? It couldn't mean. In our generosity, we will not inflict any punishment on them in the way of imprisonment or execution. All will remain here under our observation and guard. New peace and liberty shall be for all. I make a small noise like a gasp, and tears start to well up in my eyes. They're alive. My parents are alive. In the capital, never coming back to us, but alive and well. However, liberty comes with a cost. In exchange for this peace, the district leaders have all consented to sign a new treaty. This treaty will prevent such treason from ever reoccurring in our midst. It has been appropriately dubbed the Treaty of Treason.